welcome back to Beach Bum Bookworm. I am Tiffany. I'm so glad y'all found me again today, which is all about cozy mysteries and romance books. And today I'm here with my February romance reading wrap-up. I read some great books in February, so let's just get right into it. We're going in 3, 2, 1, go! As always, don't forget to hit the like, subscription, notification bell. All 3 of those things help us out tremendously. Support is free. Do it. Hit those 3 buttons. Can't thank you enough. I'm having the time of my life. I love every one of you. I'm so grateful because I've just had so much fun these past few years. Okay, so first up, I read Major Misconduct. This is the first book in the Aces Hockey romance series by Kelly Jamieson, and I give it 3 cups of coffee. I thought it was okay. So Mark and Duncan are professional hockey players. They live together, and Duncan's sister, who's really flighty, her name is Lovey, she shows up out of nowhere and she needs a place to stay. And Duncan's like, oh gosh, she can, unwillingly, he lets her stay in his apartment for a while. So that brings close quarters to Mark and Lovey, and they end up having a relationship. The thing is that because Mark didn't want to break the bro code and the idea that the roommate's sister is off limits, or his hockey teams, or his hockey teammates' sisters off limits, however you want to look at that, he is very cold, which left me feeling like there wasn't a lot of chemistry between them, except for in the sheets. And it just, 3 cups of coffee, it was okay. Next up, I read 9-Month Contract. This is the first book in the Mountain Men romance series. What is it actually called? Let me see. Mountain Men Matchmaker romance series. This is by Amy Daws, and I so wanted to love this. Listen, I love a mountain man. I love a lumberjack. I love the big old beards and the I love a mountain man. I did not love this, and I'm very sad about it because I thought, this is going to be the series for me. But so this features Trista and Wyatt. And Wyatt is looking for a surrogate because he really wants to be a dad. And he's not having any luck in finding with all of the specifications he has. So his niece, who's getting ready to go off to college, writes this ad in the paper like grumpy man looking for a surrogate mother or surrogate or something like that. She posts this ad. And at first he thinks it's his 3 brothers. And then he finds out it's his niece, who he loves very much. Not that he doesn't love his brother, but he has a different relationship with his niece. You get it. And so his niece decides she's going to find him somebody, and she goes to this surrogate agency, and she actually runs into a woman leaving the surrogate agency, and that is Trista. And Trista's been told that she is above the body weight of somebody who can be a surrogate, and through their talking, the niece realizes, I think this is the perfect girl for Wyatt. And I think she has some matchmaking schemes in mind, like not just for a surrogate, but maybe for long term. She introduces them, and they create this 9-month contract where she's going to carry his baby. And here's where my issues come in. Some of the analogies that were made were gross. They were juvenile. This is just my opinion. I just didn't care for him. Some of the quotes and the phrasing that she used on things were, again, gross, juvenile, but also pretty concerning, to be honest with you. I was very uncomfortable. I'm just really shocked. Again, subjective. I'm sure that if you looked on Goodreads, there would be 5-star reads for this where people enjoyed it and didn't have any of the issues I had. I'm only talking about me, myself, and I, okay? But I can't believe beta readers, art teams, or editors didn't come back and say, whoa, you need to change this. This is not a good analogy. This is not a good comparison. This is not... and the fact that somebody didn't is shocking to me, to be honest with you. But what I do need to know is 2 things. 1, I've never read Amy Daws before. She has a ton of books. So are there other books that you would recommend by her? And 2, If you have any mountain men or lumberjack romance series or standalones, but preferably series, put them in the comments below because this gal is looking for them. Okay, so I end up giving this 2 stars, and I hate to give books 2 stars. I don't a lot because I rate based on what my spirit feels. That's it. I don't look at anything else but the ride that I had while reading it. So, all right, let's move on. Next up, I read The Architect. This is the 3rd book in the Nashville Neighborhood romance series by Nikki Sloane. And I loved book 1 and I loved book 2. I did not love this one. It was just a plot for me, and I didn't like the characters. When you don't like the characters, it's hard to be invested in an outcome for them. And so this features Lilith, Clay, and eventually Mr. E. So Lilith and Clay are neighbors, and I believe at the beginning what happens is there's a cat that runs into Clay's house. And so Lilith is chasing him in, and when she goes into his house, she sees all of this BDSM stuff. And Clay is an architect, but he also makes BDSM equipment for like on the side. And he is a dom, and him and Lilith start this relationship. Well, then he needs to go out of town, and he brings in like a substitute for himself. I just didn't feel it. I thought it just didn't work for me. So there you go. I will definitely read the next one. Next up, I read Two Can Play. This was, I would consider this a novella. This was by Ali Hazelwood, and I'm not going to rate it because it was a novella, but these 2 main characters, she works on, they both make like video game programmer and make video games, the graphics and whatnot. And they work at competing companies, and they're going on this retreat for a like separate company that wants to contract one of their companies to make this new video game. And both of them want to do it. And both their companies want to do it. They go on this like retreat all together, and our guy is very standoffish to our gal, and I can't remember her name is Viola, and Jessie. And Jessie is very standoffish to her. She feels like he often kind of snubs her, and she's like, I don't know what happened between us. And then when they start talking a little bit later, we find out that Jessie feels like he was snubbed. He asked her out, and she declined. She doesn't even realize that that's what was going on. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you were asking me on a date. There was a lot of miscommunication. So then they start developing feelings for each other. It was a novella, so that's why I'm not going to rate it, because I don't feel like there was enough meat in the game to really rate it. I thought it was a fun time. Next up, I read While We Were Dating. This is the 6th book in the Wedding Date romance series by Jasmine Guillory. And I need to read more of this series because I didn't even know it was a series when I picked it up. Really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 cups of coffee. So this features Ben and is it Anna? And Anna is a superstar. And Ben is, what does Ben do? He's an advertising exec sort of thing, or does advertising. And he's creating this commercial or something like that. Is it a commercial? Something along that line. And Anna shows up, and she's supposed to be starring in this role. And at first, they allude to not many times do actors actually show up. And she is there to listen to the pitches, and she's like, I want him to do the pitch. If he does the pitch, Ben, then I'm in. And so they end up working side by side. And at first it's professional, but you can tell there's a lot of chemistry. They clearly like each other, but both of them, for one reason or another, know that they shouldn't cross the lines. However, Ben ends up helping her in a family emergency, and then the lines get blurred and they start a relationship. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was so much fun. I really liked their chemistry. I will definitely read more of this series. I need to go back and read number 1. I really liked her writing too. So next up, I read The Enemy Trap. This is by Maren Moore, And I loved this. This is the first book I read by Maren Moore. I've since read one other or two others. I loved this so much. And I'm not normally an enemies to lovers trope, but this was so fantastic. So this features Hayes, who's a professional hockey player, and Sophia. And they are best friends with each other's spouse. Okay, so there's another couple, because I'm not explaining that correctly. There's another couple, and the girl is best friends with Sophie, and her husband is best friends with Hayes. So they are the godparents to that couple's little girl, but they hate each other, and they're always trying to outdo each other, but their best friends know that there's more to the story. So what do? They put them on a boat in the middle of nowhere, just the two of them, where they can't get off of it for a night. And they get drunk, things happen, and she ends up pregnant, and she is still not happy because she very much is not enthralled with Hayes. So he's in the limelight, being that he's a professional hockey player, and so to spin things, his publicist encourages her to be his wife. So they like fake marry, but she's real pregnant. And so it goes from there. I absolutely love this because their banter was insane. I loved it so, so much. 5 cups of coffee. Next up, I read A Christmas Spark. This is the 0.5 to the Pride and Pranks romance series by Cindy Steele. Now, I read book 1 and loved it. There was one part that I thought was unnecessary in that book, so I gave it 4.5 stars. But if that wouldn't have happened and it had nothing to do with the romance, it was just a side thing that the author threw in that I just didn't care for, I loved it. So I was like, I need to go back and write 0.5 so then I can read number 2. I did not love this. I will read number 2, but now I'm a little hesitant. I don't know how I feel about this author now. I rated this 2 stars. So this features Penny and Chase, and Penny and Chase knew each other when they were younger, and they had kind of a relationship where they were always picking on one another, and they have friends who are married, I think one of them is a brother. I think that her brother is his best friend, I feel like. And she is given permission to use that couple's remote cabin. Well, when she gets there, she finds Chase, or when he gets there, he finds her. One of them is already there, but they've both been given permission and rented this cabin for the week. And it was all sponsored by that other couple who realized that they should be thrown together. But I really felt like Chase was a bully to her. I didn't like the picking on her stuff. I didn't feel like it was in jest. I thought it was at some points mean, and so I just didn't care for it. It just made me feel like there wasn't real chemistry between the two of them, and then so when they did hook up, it just seemed like out of nowhere. Wasn't my jam. Next up, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I gave this, I think, 3.5 cups of coffee. So this features, oh my gosh, it's out of my head already, Daphne and Miles. And Daphne was engaged to Peter, and Miles was engaged to Petra. And Petra and Peter have been best friends for a very long time, but never had any relationship. They swore to their partners, Miles and Daphne, that there wasn't anything in between them. And then right before the wedding, Peter tells her that Petra confessed her love, and they're running off together, and he needs her out by the time they come back. It was out of nowhere. Like, they're supposed to be getting married. And so in the midst of Daphne looking for a place to stay, she ends up staying with Will, who, again, just had his heart broke by Petra. And through them living together and having a little bit of a fake romance to kind of make the other couple jealous, they fall in love. I really enjoyed it. 3.5 cups of coffee. I thought it was very cute, and I really loved Miles. Next up, I love this one. I read Practice Makes Perfect. This is the second book in the When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. This was adorable. I love... Oh gosh. Okay. So this is Will and Annie. Yes. Okay. So Annie is one of the sisters of the Walker clan, and we meet all of the family in the first book. So the first book was Annie's brother, and I can't remember the girl's name, but she is like a country superstar, or she's a musician that's famous, but I can't remember. I think it was country music. Could be pop. I don't remember. But her bodyguard. So her bodyguard is this like bad boy, tattooed, big, huge bodyguard build guy. And he's very standoffish because I'm a bodyguard, that sort of thing. I don't know why I keep doing this, but anyways, okay. And then you have Annie, and Annie owns this little flower shop. She is very by the book. She's a rule follower. She's, once very much just quiet life in the town that she lives in now, where she meets a man, falls in love, has children, all of that stuff. And Will is, I don't want to settle down. I want to travel the world. I want to have adventure and experience. He's an adrenaline junkie, that sort of thing. However, he is very attracted to Annie. Annie is definitely attracted to him as well. But Annie is not good at dating. She's not good at flirting. She's just not good with people of the opposite sex. She gets very anxious and all that stuff, and ends up kind of tongue-tying herself. And we see her on a first date, and he literally like gets up and like walks off and makes a phone call that she overhears, where he's like, hey, can you call me and say there's an emergency, that sort of thing. And so as he is like saying he has to leave, which she knows a lie because she had overheard the conversation, Will comes up and he was like, what are you doing, dude? This is Annie Walker. She's amazing. And you can tell right away that he is into her, but he doesn't want to be. Well, Annie and him end up striking a deal where he's going to teach her how to date, flirt, that sort of thing. And it is their relationship, and I loved it. This is a very sweet, closed door romance. There's no spice in it, and I loved their dynamic and their banter. I thought it was so good. I think I gave this 5 cups of coffee. Really, really enjoyed it. Next up, I read First Down. This is the first book in the Beyond the Play romance series by Grace Reilly. This is an author who will be at the, what is the convention called? There's a convention that I'm going to in Orlando in August, Romantically Yours, I think it's called. And there are tickets. I'm assuming there are tickets still available, but if you go to romanticallyyours.com, you'll see all the info. It's at one of the big hotels in Orlando in August. Okay, so this author is going to be there, so I've picked her up. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 cups of coffee. So this features James and Bex. And James is on his way to be a professional football player, and something happened at his old college with a girlfriend, and he has transferred to this new school, and he just wants to stay on track with football, keep his nose down, and get drafted to the NFL. And then we have Bex, and Bex was dating somebody on the football team. She has broken up with him. He cheated on her, but he won't leave her alone. And so James and her decide that they're going to fake date. I don't remember what his bargaining was or what he got out of it, except maybe people left him alone. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. But she needed to show this other guy that she had moved on, because he won't leave her alone, almost into a dangerous level. And so as her and James are fake dating, of course, something more happens. I really, really liked it. I gave it 4 cups of coffee. Next up, I read The Newspaper Nanny. This is by Maren Moore, who I read earlier, The Enemy Trap, gave it 5 cups of coffee. This one, I think I gave 3 cups. Didn't work as well for me. This features Liam, who is a NHL coach, and he is looking for a nanny, and he can't find one that he feels like he wants to leave his children. I don't remember if he has 1 or 2. I think just 1. And so he puts an ad in the paper at encouragement from somebody else. And he's like, classifieds still exist? What? Which I agreed with. I was like, huh? But she answers this ad. And although he wants to remain professional and he just wants her to take care of his child, the more time they spend together, the more they like each other. It was okay. 3 cups of coffee. Next up, I read How Sweet It Is. This is the first book in the Matthew Brothers series by Dylan Newton. Dylan Newton is another author that's going to be at the Romantically Yours convention in August. And I think I gave this 3 cups of coffee. I read the second one first, not realizing it was part of a series. The second one, I gave 5 cups of coffee. Really loved it. This one, I gave 3. This features event planner Kate and her Drake. Drake is a author. He's very famous. He writes scary books. And he is secretly writing like this romance book. Well, he agrees to let Kate do this function for him because she's an event planner, and it's for like the launch of his book, and she wants to turn his house into like a Addams Family kind of vibe sort of thing. And along the way, I don't know, I just didn't love them. I loved them in the second book. Kate and Drake in the second book, I really loved seeing them together, and I thought that their journey would have been more fun. I still enjoyed it, and I will definitely read the next one. I'm highly anticipating number 3. So I read number 2 already, like I said, so now I need to read number 3. I'm very excited about it because I'm very intrigued by the third Matthews brother. I can't wait to read his story and how he comes around, because right now he's a war vet and he is an amputee from war, and he has a lot of demons, and he is nowhere in this first or second book where he wants to be in a relationship or even find love, and I just can't wait to get his story. So I'm very excited about the third book. The last book I read was Bound by Temptation. This is the 4th book in the Born in Blood Mafia Chronicles by Cora Reilly. I have been reading my way through this universe because I want to get to the Cora Chronicles so bad. And this series has been like this for me. I loved the first one. I love Luca. Listen, we don't judge. I know a lot of people don't like Luca. I love him. Love him. I actually really like Mateo, but there's been a couple of these books that I've just been like, or I'm like, huh? Anyways, if you watch my previous wrap-ups, you will know. But this one is Liliana, our youngest in the Scuderi family, and Ramiro. And Ramiro is a like bodyguard in the mafia to the families. And so Liliana Scuderi is one of the daughters of like the head guy. And so she is not to be marrying a bodyguard as far as like levels in the mafia goes. And first of all, this book started when she was very young, and I was like, whoa, I'm very uncomfortable. But it was just her having a crush on Ramiro because he's older. And I was like, oh, okay. So nothing happens between them. He's very like, you're a child, you're not on my, we're not on the same level. I should not be messing around with the head guy's daughter. So he's, but also she's a juvenile. So then we skip ahead a little bit. We see her, at age, and I think even a little older, maybe 19 or 20. And that's when they start a relationship. But I don't know. I didn't love them together. I didn't love them separately. It was okay. I gave it 3 cups of coffee. Definitely will continue because, again, there's other characters I'm really excited about reading, but also I want to get to the Cora Chronicles. So that was my month of romance. Let me know what your favorite romances are. I promise I'm not normally that harsh. I feel like I gave out a lot of 3s and even a 2, which is not normal for me. But it is what it is. I have to be honest with you, because if I wasn't, why am I here? All right, everybody, give me a big thumbs up for this video. And until next time, may all you future reads be 5 stars. Bye, everybody.